the same as all the whites, kind of a thing. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I'm not much for dates and all that, but as far as history is concerned, that would be the residential school, and yeah, that's one thing.
Yes.
That happened, but there's a lot of history in this area, and we'll try and cover as much as we can, and I'll try and share as much as I can. I want to say right off the bat, I am no expert. I'm not a historian or anything, but I did grow up in a very traditional home in that I was raised by my grandfather, the late Bob Plaited Hair Kuttu, the very well-known spiritual leader, I guess you could say, on the reserve. And in his household, nobody spoke English. From the time they got up to the time they went to bed, just Black.
Blackfoot only. Yeah.
So that was my first language, and that's all I spoke. And I always share stories with school groups, and especially the little guys. I enjoy sharing stories with them. So I would tell them about my upbringing when I was their age.
Yes.
What life was like for me when I got up in the morning.
Right.
So my grandfather, he didn't have electricity, he didn't have plumbing, and didn't have heat. So, and he was one of the last men on the reserve, along with another fellow just up the road, to give up his team horses.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah.
we actually went out in weather, cold weather, to get firewood and all that. So everything was done, a lot of hard work. you know.
Yeah.
And some of us who are older might share the same stories. But I tell that to kids a lot, and
Yeah.
and they'll look at me. How old are you? That wasn't very long ago.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah. Like I said, I enjoy talking about our people, the Blackfoot. I am from the Blood Tribe, as you know, Canada's largest Indian reserve, where Lethbridge sits on what we call traditional Blackfoot territory. And if we want to get a little more specific, it's mainly Ghana.
Ghana?
Ghana is our name. We have various names. We're called the Blood Tribe. We're called Kainai. Kainai is just shortened to Agana. Agana means many chiefs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so they shorten it and just call it Kainai.
Okay.
But on our flag, if you look at our flag, it says Blood Tribe. So there's a little story there. I'll share that with you.
Great.
But the oldest name that I've been told by the people that that share stories with me and that is Bates, which is Weasel people.
Weasel people.
Yes.
Okay.
So the way I understand it is that we don't give ourselves a tribal name. We are who we are.
Right.
It's other tribes that gave us that name.
Okay.
And Weasel people, if you look at some old pictures from the Glenbow Museum or even here at the Galt, you get a chance and you look at a picture of a Ganam, somebody from Ghana, old picture, you'll notice that on their buckskin, the way they dress, their straight up headdresses from here all the way around are white weasel, black tails.
Okay.
Just covered with it.
Okay.
And on their war shirts too, they fringe them with down here.
Okay.
So neighboring tribes and other tribes, they see that, and that's what they call it.
Got it.
Bates.
Okay. I thought first of all it was like an insult. The other tribe was calling you something to insult.
Well, today it might
be,
sound
but
like an
yeah.
insult,
But I got it because of the
but
adornments.
In the traditional languages, it wouldn't sound like an insult.
No.
This is nothing like that. So that's our, as far as I know, is our original name.
Interesting.
Bates. And a lot of my generation and younger generation that are learning more and more about our history, we're actually calling ourselves that.
The Weasel
Bates
people?
is
Yeah.
We don't say Weasel. We try to just
Stick to the Blackfoot name.
Stick to the Blackfoot.
All right. Yeah. Makes sense.
So,
Okay.
so that's the original name.
Okay. Say it in Blackfoot one more time.
Bates. Yeah. So,
okay.
So here's where the Blood Tribe came from.
Let's hear it.
From that mistranslation. Almost everything is a mistranslation.
Interesting.
So, when you say Aapan, that means blood.
Okay.
So whoever was doing the translation at the time, who are these people? And I think they said Bates. I So he thought they said blood. Apan.
Oh.
So blood tribe. That's where that came from. What he was really saying was Petsitapi, which weasel.
Right.
Two words kind of sound similar.
Yeah.
So he made a mistake and he called it blood. And so that's how the name Blood Tribe came from.
Okay. And tell me how it's actually called the Blackfoot Confederacy, isn't it?
Confederacy.
Why is it a confederacy?
So back in the days, pre-contact, before your ancestors and before Hudson's Bay, before anybody else came into this part of the world, we were here.
Right.
Now, science will tell you, well, let's say the Romantics will tell you that we've been here since time immortal. And I don't really know what that means.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And I've heard a few elders, they don't like that term.
Oh, yes, okay.
They just say we've been here longer than anybody else.
Got it.
This is our territory.
Right.
But if you look at the science, and I've done some research, and I worked at the Head Smash in Buffalo Jump and worked with Jack Brink, who's an archaeologist out there, and he'll never say you guys were here at this point. He'll just say someone was here.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't want to start a war or anything. So,
Okay.
so he's very, politically correct. He won't say that. But I've talked to a lot of my father and that generation, even older ones, and one thing they will agree is that we did arrive at some point, like we all did, obviously.
Right.
And that's the science part, okay? The oral history and the stories that are told, that's the kind of more, I don't want to say romantic, but it sounds really cool, and it's good to know that.
Sure.
But the science side of me wants to know
When?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the date?
When
Yeah.
did I get here? Just like I moved to Lethbridge in 1987 or something. Okay, so I don't know that. So that's why I started asking questions, and nobody really could tell me exactly, but the number of 5 to 10,000 years.
5 to 10,000 years is the range.
Is the range of the Blackfoots being in this part of the world.
Got it.
Now, Jack Brink, and over at the Buffalo Jump, I told him, what do you think? He says, well, we did find the oldest artifact that we found here at the Head Smashed In was a spear point they called Scott's Bluff that was carbon dated to over 9,000 years.
Woo, really?
So that's why he says somebody was here hunting buffalo.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say who it is because they don't know.
Right.
They don't know who it is. So you take those. You take the science, you take the oral history. At the end of the day, we've been here for a long time.
Yes.
And so this is Lethbridge sits on what you call traditional Blackfoot territory. Now your question was, who are they? Well, the Blackfoot Confederacy is made up of 4 tribes today.
Okay.
They are the Blood Tribe, Agana, Bestapi, whatever you want to call us.
Yes.
And like I said, we are Canada's largest Indian reserve as far as land mass is concerned. And then just to the west of us, Pikani. Okay. On the last census I looked at of Ghana, there's a little over 12,000 members. Could be, I don't know exactly. It's around, and they're all over the place. They're not on the reserve.
Right.
A lot of them live here in Lethbridge, Calgary. They're literally around the world.
Right. Okay.
Pikani, our neighbors to the west, our brothers and sisters there. I'm not sure what their census is, but it must be around 6,000-7,000 members.
Okay.
So their reserves over by Pincher Creek.
Right.
And then up in Calgary, just east of Calgary, about an hour or so, is the Sitsiga Nation, and Sitsiga means Blackfoot. So that's what they call themselves. They're Sitsiga, and there's a few there, but their town is Calgary. That's their headquarters. And then down in Browning, Montana, you have the Blackfeet Nation.
Oh, okay.
Skapi Pikani. So Akana, Apatoksi Pikani, Sitsiga, and Skapi Pikani. 4 tribes make up the Blackfoot Confederacy.
Okay.
At one time, the Southern Pagan and the Northern Pagan were one big tribe.
Okay.
649th parallel.
Yeah.
Kind of cut those boys off down there.
Right.
And they're down there anyway because we all kind of had traditional hunting territories that we favored. We moved all over the place.
Sure.
But there was areas, winter camps, summer camps,
right,
where we kind of, especially winter camps. This Lethbridge area was one of the Ghana's and the Beacon is winter camp.
Sure, because a little bit milder climate, and
and you know, you're down in the valley.
Yeah.
The river's right there.
Yeah.
All the woods there. There's good hunting during the winter.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Sure.
So the 4 tribes, that's what makes up the Blackfoot Confederacy. And they're basically the same people. We all kind of share the same history, our customs, our ways of worship, the language.
So the language is all the same?
Pretty much.
Okay.
There is slight differences in how they might say a certain word as opposed to us. But generally, we are the same people. We come from the same DNA, I guess, if you could say.
Right. Yeah. You said you were raised by your grandpa, because your dad passed away earlier or something.
No. That's kind of a custom.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's
Oh.
in the old days, long before them, back in the good old days, grandparents would see a child. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be blood related.
Right.
But usually is. And I have one at home right now.
Oh, do you?
I have a grandchild right now who's special. Everyone's grandchildren is special. But you know, there's always a little bit of, you know, this guy is smart. I see something about him. I know he's my grandson. I'm biased, but the way he conducts himself. And I talk to him. And he understands what I'm saying.
How old is he?
Oh, right. He just turned 2 this past August.
Oh, yeah.
So he's
Okay.
So in the old days, that's what they would see. They would recognize something, whether it's a young boy or a young girl, and they adopt them. They take them under their wing and they raise them. And those are future leaders. They could be maybe teach them about the medicines and herbs and everything. So they become specialists in certain areas because they showed a certain talent. You know, they're just a little different, and they kind of bring them. They call them minique bukas. Today it means a brat.
Oh.
But, in our language, it's a little better. Minique buka means they're raised by the elders.
Okay.
And not necessarily. So it was very common.
But your father wasn't raised by by his grandfather, or is it only selected? It's only selected kids that are. Is that right? Or
not necessarily. For me, it was just because I wanted to go there.
Right. Yeah.
His food was better than our food.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
His house was warmer than my house, and I enjoyed being around him because he always had visitors. There was all these other old timers visiting, and you listen to their stories. It was funner being at my grandfather's house. And,
sure.
I mean, I didn't have a bedroom or anything. I just had a mat on the floor. Wherever you can fit yourself, that's where you slept.
That was it, yeah.
And of course, like I said earlier, there's a lot of work involved. So it's up to us young men to get out there and do all the chores, get everything ready. A lot of work involved. So it's a custom. So I didn't say I'm gonna live with you. I just moved in.
Just moved.
And I stayed there as long. In fact, I was around my grandfather right till the day he died.
Oh, is that right?
I was with him the morning. It was kind of I skipped out of school and I was hiding in the bush there, and the bus went by. I slowly made my way back, and he was home. Everybody was gone. And he was sitting there. He's always sitting on his chair, white T-shirt, coffee, and a cigarette. And he looked up at me. Okay, you didn't go to school today. But you're not just going to sit around. I'm going to put you to work.
Got it.
So he said there's some paint and there's some brush. I want you to paint all these cupboards. So that's what I did. I started painting them. Then he got up. Just out of the blue, he got up, walked into his room, got ready, and he came out. Where are you going? I'm going to go see the doctor. Oh, okay. Do you want me to go with you? Because you have to hitchhike. We didn't have a vehicle.
Right.
And the highway's just on the other side of the house. And he said, no, I'm okay. You finish painting. I want this thing painted when I get home. So I thought, let me at least take you to the road. So I took him to the road. And him, when he hitchhikes, he stands right in the middle of the road.
Oh,
so you either stop for him or run over him.
Okay.
So, and he was a big guy.
Oh, yeah.
He was known to be a pretty big guy.
Yeah.
And so first vehicle stopped, and he got in and took off. That night, he died of a massive heart attack.
Is that right, eh?
So
wow.
I spent I was the only family member that was with him, kind of, the last time he left the house. And so that always stuck with me. So,
Sure.
and I learned a lot from him. You
Yeah.
know, these old people about hard work ethic, and
Yeah.
trying hard. And he always encouraged us to pursue, you know, education and all that. So.
Yeah.
So he raised me, not in like the old traditional way. Hey, I see something in you. I just moved in and I just got, you know. But it benefited me even
Sure.
today.
Yeah.
I still remember his teachings. Yeah.
Well, you know what? If you think about just like parenting in general, like parents are often working too hard to meet the obligations they have to. But a grandparent, right, a different deal. They like he was probably very, very attentive and talked to you lots, and you know, and you said also with all the visitors coming, that was a very rich exchange, right? To hear all his peers talk about you know stories they've learned and stories that might have otherwise got kind of lost, right, as well. There's got to be a lot of stories that have gone from what the original base of the stories were, right? So
well, you know, it's that old thing, you never know what you have until it's gone.
Yeah.
And if I had listened a little better back then, I could write a book, you know? But unfortunately, I wasn't a very good listener. I got lazy, I got tired, I wanted to go to bed, and sometimes I just wanted to get out of it. But I still did witness, just being around
Sure.
them was just, you know, an experience, and hearing their voices. So the film that my dad did,
Yes,
in
the film,
1960,
1950. Yeah, okay.
they started filming in 1958. If you look at that, there are scenes of those old people.
Nice.
The same people that were in my grandfather's house. That's one of the reasons why I use it as a tool to teach other people.
Yeah.
It gives them a glimpse of those old people, because those are the guys who had all the stories.
Yes.
This new Western way of life was foreign to them. They still lived the old lifestyle.
Yep. Yeah.
Right to the end. They only spoke Blackfoot. Some of them had English names because it was given to them, but they only introduced themselves
with their Blackfoot
name. So it was a different time.
Yeah.
And I always like to say that my generation, I just turned 60 years old not too long ago, and my generation, I think, and I could be wrong and people could disagree, but I think we were very lucky that we still have that connection to that. My father's generation, and we still witnessed their father's generation. So
right.
You know, that at least two generations. And the guys older than me were around with those other guys, you know. It's very rich history.
Yeah.
And that's like, everything is oral, it's not written. So the only way you're going to tap into that is to go to those people.
Got it.
And that's how you can get that information.
Right.
And that's a big part of it.
And then the movie or the film that was from the National Film Board, released in 1960, what was it called again?
Circle of the Sun.
Circle of the Sun.
Yeah.
And so, and obviously National Film Board, you can find it.
You can go on their website and you can, or you just Google on Facebook. It comes in 3 parts. You can see there. So I always, I enjoy showing it to people, even our own people. They just, you know,
Sure.
The footage is, they'll recognize somebody.
Yeah.
I worked with someone at the Buffalo Jump, the late Lorraine Goodstriker. When I watch it with her, she can point out just about everybody and name them.
Oh yeah.
And that's awesome to know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know everybody, but I knew most of them. So yeah. So that's recommended. Yeah, you can Google it and you can find it.
So the person, your colleague there, who's passed now, right? Then did somebody record the names for all these people that in the video that?
No, I think there's enough people around
that still know.
That could recognize just probably almost everybody. My uncle Alfred is still alive today. He's my dad's younger brother. He was in there too, but he was fairly young. But he probably could recognize almost everybody in there.
Cool. Wow. I found this real interesting. I took this course called Brain Story Certification. Have you ever heard of this? Anyways, it's about early childhood development and about adverse childhood experiences and how that's, you know, the impacts of that have long lasting results, right? And if they're not checked, it's, you know, people have really shitty lives often, right? You know, they have poor health, and they're more likely to be addicted, and they're more likely to die young, and they're, you know, so a whole bunch of things associated with it. But one thing in that course that I thought was really, really interesting is they had a part on First Nations type things, and First Nations practices in terms of raising children, right? And it was the way they expressed it. There was set ages where there was this ritual, like you've made it to this stage in your life. This is the whatever the age 6 celebration about. I don't know the ages, but basically there was set type markers to say that you were on the path to being a good human being, kind of a thing, right? Or being a good member of your tribe, right? And it was fascinating, right? And those things, like, you know, that it makes sense, right? That a child has like an expectation of, you know, first there's this stage, and then there's this stage, and then there's this stage, right? And then you know, the one stage that I remember them talking about is even like braves, but in terms of not, or warriors, but not to fight, but to defend, right? To defend the tribe, kind of a thing, right? It was like fascinating. It was really, really interesting. So
that's it's very similar to today's education system, in that you have like you have daycare, you have kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, so those are peer. You know, guys, you went to school right to graduation, and then there's the higher level of post-secondary. You know, you go to college or you go to university, you get your degree, then you can go after your master's. And so, you know, there's levels of learning.
right.
So it's interesting you brought that up, because we started a program here in the city a couple of years ago. We called it 7 Stars.
7 stars.
7 Stars program. It's Skitsikam. So if you look up to the stars this way, you'll see the Big Dipper.
Yes.
That's the 7 stars.
Oh, okay.
So almost every plains, every native tribe across North America, literally maybe around the world, there's a story
About 7 stars.
Constellations, all the stars. This particular one has a story too. So we use that we started this program called the 7 Stars. And what it was originally designed for, 2 years ago, I got this grant that I was applying for, and it was suicide prevention. It's been around for a long time. But in our culture, the old people, they don't like the word suicide.
Okay.
So we called it honoring life.
Honoring life. Okay, sure.
So, but anyways, it was still the money for suicide prevention.
Right.
So I went through learning about our spiritual and ceremonial ways for the last 7, from the time it started to when this past year, about 10 years of my time. I learned quite a bit. And it's funny you said a better person, because my father, all of that ceremony and all those protocols and the songs and everything that we were taught, very, very complex, so much, a lot of work involved. My dad told me, after all of that, as long as you come out of there a better person, then it has done its job.
Then it's done its work.
So what about all that?
Yeah, no kidding.
All that we learned, you'll need it. You're gonna know. In the future, you'll know.
Yeah.
Right now, don't worry about it. In the future, you will know.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to know now.
Yeah.
But anyways, so 7 Stars, we decided, okay, there's a lot of, first of all, I asked my elders, my grandfather's grandmothers, and I told them, hey, you know, all this stuff is awesome. We should be using this to teach our young people.
You bet.
And they said, yeah, go ahead. So we knew that here in the city and Calgary, wherever, but here in the city, there's a lot of young families that are hungry for that. They're starting to ask questions. Well, who am I? What is that? You know, like, hey, how come? Hey, mom, grandpa, how come we don't? You know. So we decided, okay, let's teach them, and we're going to use the society. So you mentioned warrior societies. Today, back in the day, they had peer groups, just like grade 1 and all the way up. So there were Bumblebees Society, and they had different names.
Okay, based on their ages.
Yeah, based on ages, and you just kind of graduate.
Yeah.
Older, and by the time you're 14, way back in the day, you were considered a warrior. You would you would buddy up with one of the older men, and you would go on these, go out to. I don't know what the right word in English would be, but in our language, SUO, and there's really not a translation for that. But whether they're going to go out to the Crow camp or a Cree camp to steal horses or to whatever,
right,
war, whatever,
right,
you were taught by an older.
Got it.
warrior.
On a mission that
On
could
a
be
mission,
dangerous of
yes,
some sort.
yes,
Anyways,
yes.
yeah.
So there are different societies as you're growing up. So as you're growing up, you're going to enter this society, and then you'll be in this society, and all the way up to adulthood. Okay. So in the societies, just like in school, you are taught. You're taught different things depending on what that society is, and you just progress your way up. So I asked the elders, well, why can't I just start a society?
Oh yeah,
I'll
yeah.
call it the Urban Indigenous, culture, whatever. I had to give it some title for the funding.
Sure, of course,
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so we called it 7 Stars. We applied for the money, we got it, and we started. And I had about 37 urban Indigenous youth come to the initial launch of it. And the idea of it was to bring the culture, our ways, the Blackfoot ways,
Yep.
to them
Okay.
and teach them. So I bring in the grandfathers and the grandmothers and educators and that, and they learn about our history. Some of the things that I shared
Yeah,
with
yeah.
you, they learn about through the elders and through the grandfathers. Now there's a thing you've probably heard on the Blood Reserve called Sundance. Okay, have you
Mhm.
heard of that?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I haven't experienced. I've been in what's
You've
it called?
heard of it?
I've been in a sweat before. I've
Okay.
done that, and I've done the sage. You like
Yeah,
that kind of whatever that ceremony is.
So
but
that's where we come in.
that's where you come in.
We educate you on all of that.
Okay.
Some of it is Blackfoot, some of it isn't. Okay. Here, because we're in Blackfoot territory, when in Rome, that's what you do.
Sure.
So I can't speak to Cree culture because I'm not Cree.
Right.
I can't speak to Métis culture because I'm not Métis.
Right.
I can't speak to any other culture. I can only speak Ghana because that's where I'm from.
You bet.
I can't even speak for Bikani because I'm not Bikani.
Yeah.
I can't even speak for Sitsikai because I'm not Sitsikai. I can't speak for Amskapi Bikani because I'm not Amskapi Bikani. I'm Ghana, Akana, Abetsitapi. So the teachings we get are us.
Got it.
But we share, they're the same.
Right.
The ceremonies are the same, they just do it slightly different.
Sure.
But the end result is the same.
Got it.
So, Kukats, one thing we try to teach our young people is quit translating everything. Just use
the Blackfoot name.
language.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
get used to saying Kukats.
Yeah.
And that's what we call our Sundance, what is known as Sundance. It's Kukats.
Okay.
So there are other Sundances, the Cree and like across Saskatchewan and Manitoba. They're a little different. Ours is has never changed. It's never adapted itself to modern ways.
Got it.
We try to stay as pure to the original Kukats and that's been passed down for generations to the ceremonies. Obviously, you can't get away. I drive there. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
ride
To ride a horse,
there,
or
so-
yeah.
So obviously there's modern technology and all that. But anyways, the Akukats, in as far as I'm concerned, and this is just my own personal view and opinion, is the true identity of Ghana.
Okay. Okay.
That's who we are. If you want to know who we are, that's who we are.
That's the ceremony. That's the event that. Okay.
It's kind of like our Mecca.
Got it.
So for a long time, other reserves had Akukats, but they lost it when government came,
Yeah.
when the police came, when the missionaries came.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, get
Yeah.
rid of the Indian.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they outlawed all of those ceremonies.
Right, exactly,
So they
yeah.
went underground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And when they went underground, so the ones that didn't go underground, kind of, I hate to say, but they kind of gave up.
Oh yeah. Okay.
They threw the towel in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll obey whatever it is you want me to be.
Right.
I'll be a Canadian. I'll be whatever.
Yeah.
Here's my bundle. Here's my secret bundle here.
Got it.
Some were
And
sold.
and the bundles were
Those
like
are- those
the
are-
prized possessions, the
yes,
sacred
yes.
possessions that you have.
Those are remnants of our ancient people.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
they're very powerful. They're very precious to us.
Okay.
But when that happened, people lost faith. And unfortunately, a lot of our people, they didn't know what to do. So they gave him up.
Yeah.
They said, so they ended up in museums around the world. They ended up in private collectors. But my father's crew, when they went into that society, they repatriated a lot of them.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
they literally took their grandfathers and grandmothers who still knew the old ways and went to London, wherever they could find our artifacts.
Okay.
They found them.
Really?
And they brought them home. That's
Interesting.
repatriation.
Oh.
So I believe, I could be wrong, but I do believe when my father was involved in that society, there was 9 bundles, I believe. Today we have 27 bundles.
Mm,
Okay.
cool.
And then about 10 years ago or so, Sichika revives theirs up. So now they have Akukatsun going again.
Okay. Cool.
And just a couple of years ago, Skapi Pikani started theirs up again.
Nice.
So now there's 3 of the Blackfoot Confederate tribes that have Akukatsun. But Ghana is unique in that it never stopped.
It's always the same, and we never had a break in it for.
Never, no wars, you name it. We had our Akukatsun.
Is it always like on the same time of year? Or something like
Well,
that?
in the old days, they would. Everything's by nature.
Right.
you know.
Right. Right.
So when the Saskatoon berries are ripe,
That's it. That's
you should be camped by then. So that's like July.
Got it.
July.
Yeah,
late
yeah.
July, they're nice and plump and ready.
Yeah.
That's the time they camp. So that's Akukatsun. So these families that are in the city have been disconnected to that.
Right.
And it's really, like I said, the other 2 tribes are going. So
Right.
the young people they really want to learn.
That's really inspiring.
Yes.
That's exciting. Yeah.
So that's why 7 Stars was created here in Lethbridge to teach the urbanites, because a lot of them were born in Lethbridge. This is their home.
Right.
This is all they know.
Right.
And even some of their parents, same thing. My son was born and raised in Lethbridge. This is all he knows. He
Right.
doesn't know
Right.
reserve life, eh? So anyways, so we bring Akukatsun to them and we teach them. And the end goal, they learn and they dress properly. There's a dress code. There's a certain way you have to come
Like
out.
in traditional dress, more
Yes,
so. Yeah. Okay.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's basically teaching them core values.
Cool.
Give them a BBTs and taking care of other people. It's just all good. It's all positive. There's
Got
no negative. There's
Right.
There's no
The
rough
things
and
that they traditionally would have learned to be part of their
Yes.
community,
Yeah.
those are the lessons you're trying to.
and like you said earlier, to be a better person.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we bring Akukatsun to the city and they learn at the Friendship Center, and then we go out. They call it land-based learning. You go out to sites with elders and they show you here. This is what happened here,
Right.
and
Right.
they'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
So we recently had a Iniskin, it's a buffalo stone ceremony. So they collected the buffalo stone on their own. There's a ceremony involved. There's a way of the proper way of doing it. They're taught that. They go do it. They harvest it. They came home, and we were going to do the transfer at Akukatsun, but because of COVID, I thought I better.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
better be careful here.
Yeah.
So I told them, we're not going to do it at Akukatsun. We'll wait. Maybe COVID will. So we actually had it very recently. We had it at the Friendship Center. So the elders just came. And the new chief of police was actually there. He came over.
He is an impressive man.
Yeah.
I met him. I
Yeah.
think he's going to make some huge
Yeah.
changes,
Yeah.
positive changes for our community.
Yeah, we invited him. So he could see real ceremony. It's not made up. It's real. Those
Yeah.
songs, the transfer that happened date back thousands of years.
Yeah.
So the kids got to experience a real transfer. They were involved in the transfer ceremony.
Yeah.
So the little Niskins that they were blessed for them to give in, there's a song to it, and it's kind of like a protection, and
Okay, yeah,
necklace,
yeah, sure, yeah.
wear it around. So that's that's the end result, is we want them to not only learn but also be a part of ceremony, and that's one ceremony that they could get involved in without being a part of the societies. So, and then was awesome, two of the older members, because we teach them about the other societies. There's two that are kind of young men, women societies, warrior societies. One is really old. It's the Brave Dogs or Brave Horse Society, Kanatsumitats. And the other one is Kakku, it's Dove Society. So today they're mostly kind of geared to younger people, because it's a warrior. In the old days, it was a warrior society, police society. They're the ones who protected all that.
Right.
But today they're kind of like the workers. They still protect the camp,
Right.
but they help the older societies with duties and all. So there's a lot of work involved. Anyways, they have transferred. You have to be transferred into the society.
Oh, okay.
So again, we teach them, and we teach the parents. Okay, what's involved in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to know too. So we teach the parent and the child. So it's a way for they come together as a family.
Nice.
And they're learning together.
Right.
And then they go to Akukats. And this past year, I was really proud of two of our members. I was still I don't stay in my teepee now. I got an RV, so I was on the RV side.
Okay.
Had visitors, and it was late in the evening, and these two young people were caught. I could see them in the corner of my eye. They're all dressed up really nice, but I didn't know who they were until I finally turned around. They had a packet of smokes and some cash, and they gave it to me as a gift. Oh, what's this for? No, that's thank you. We got transferred into the Brave Dogs.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
That's the goal.
That's
now
awesome.
they are bona fide members of that society.
Right.
When they started, they didn't know nothing.
Right.
So it's just like graduation.
Right.
Now you're an active member of the society.
Right. A society that has existed for
thousands of years.
Yeah.
So hence on it goes. It
Yeah.
never stops.
Oh, that's
So-
awesome.
So it's very, to me, like I said earlier, Akukatsin is the true identity of who we are.
Got it.
As Blackfoot people.
Yeah.
But more specifically for me, Ghana, only because that's where I'm from. Like I said, I can't speak for other tribes. They have their own voice, and we can only speak to what we've learned and what we know and what we can share.
Right. I was I have a mission, and my mission is to enhance childhood experiences, or if you look at it the other way, reduce adverse childhood experiences, right? Because of the negative ramifications for the kids, but for our society in general too, right? And the one guy that I love about this, his name's Dr. Bruce Perry, and he's got a book called The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog. And it's a fascinating book, and it's basically about these kids who have had horrendous things happen in their lives, like terrible things happen in their lives. And then he, through I think it's called neurosequential programming, if you will, he kind of looks and says, where is this child stuck at? Like, at what age did they experience this tremendous trauma that then they can't get past that, right? And then he finds a way for them to do that, and he's to recover. And one of the things he talks about is that the relationships that the child has with adults, or even just carrying older, like adolescents kind of thing, you older brothers and sisters, those relationships serve to like buffer any of those bad experiences, to prevent those bad experiences, and then also to help the child recover, right? And so he says, like, now where are these important relationships if people are having to work, both mom and dad are working, and they've got their child in the daycare, and there's one care worker for 6 kids, right? Where are these rich relationships, right? And so what he says is that our past is when we had those relationships, and it's basically what the First Nations people past was, right? There was, like in your case with your grandpa raising you, right? It was your grandpa, but your dad was still involved, and your auntie was involved, and your older brother, there was like 6 kids or 6 adults or adolescents to help care for every one child, right? And what a rich environment for that child, right? So it's just like, you know, we've moved ahead and we've done all these changes and we made a whole bunch of things. But in terms of the experience for children, and like you, where you learn from your grandpa and his peers, right? Man, the lessons you learn.
Yeah.
A lot of kids they've never seen their grandpa, or they see him so like whatever they've seen this twice and then he died, or you know, that kind of a thing, right? That is a big break in that. So yeah.
And I think today, at least in our communities, and I can again, I'll only speak for myself. I only have 2 boys, but I got 9 grandchildren. So they're busy boys.
Yeah.
The youngest, I did an experiment because language was big. Everybody's always talking about language. We gotta save the language. We gotta save the language. And I'm not a fluent speaker, but I can speak the language, and I can sit with an elder, and they can tell me things, and I pretty much get the gist of everything he's saying. I can figure it out. Anyways, my experiment was just like me. English wasn't spoken. It was, but the predominant language was Blackfoot.
Right.
Okay? And in fact, when anybody, my aunties or anybody, you know, they try to speak English and they just get laughed at.
Oh yeah.
Napiaki, white woman. You know.
Nice.
So you get kind of ridiculed when you speak it.
Yeah, yeah.
So you don't speak it. But anyways, I thought, okay, just like our Hutterite neighbors.
Yes.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I was told by someone who visits them a lot.
Yes.
And they said that the older ladies, the grandmothers who are retired and are not necessarily do all the heavy work anymore.
Right.
They have a nursery, kind of like a kindergarten. So all the women, they bring the little ones, and they give them to the old ladies, and the old ladies spend the whole day with them.
Yeah.
And all they do is speak their language to them.
Yeah.
Nothing else. No English, just their language.
Yeah.
They sing their songs to them, and they spend all their time with them.
Yeah.
So the first word that comes out of their mouth is their language.
Is their language. Nice.
So
Nice.
I thought, you know what? I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
So my youngest, I had a name for him. I was going to name him, but then my elder, the guy that brought me through that journey of
Yes.
Kokatsin, he was my main elder. He's actually, we're almost the same age. He came in and he told me, Gyomanskata, have you named him? And I told, well, before I could even finish, he said, give him to me, I'll name him. So he grabbed him and held him up. Nitani kapi, which translated kind of means like number one guy or only or only young man, something like Nitotsuka is Nitani kapi. Kapi is little man.
Okay, yeah.
So number one man.
Nice.
That's the way I call it.
Yeah.
So he got his name, Nitani kapi. And he was still just a little baby. He was just like that. So I said, okay, here's my experiment. I'm only going to speak Blackfoot to him.
Nice, yeah.
Now that he's got his name, every morning when I get up, he's in the kitchen and I come walking out, and right from the kitchen, from my bedroom, all the way down the hall, Nitani kape! Nitani kape! And as he grew older, that's all he heard.
Yeah.
So he responds to it now.
Nice.
It got to the point where he only responds to Nitani kape.
Okay.
His English name is Kai.
Okay.
And his siblings, a little older, they forgot what his English name was.
Is it?
Because they only called him Nitani kapi. So everybody in the house just calls him Nitani kapi. That's his name.
Yes.
That's his identity. There's only one Nitani kapi.
Nice.
There's a million Kais out in the world.
Right.
There's only one Nitani kapi.
Nice.
So that's that uniqueness. Eh?
Yeah.
So anyways, it was really cool because he was just a little baby crawling around and saying, Nitani kapi. You know, he responded to it. And it was funny that the siblings forgot. Grandpa, what's Nitani kapi's name again? No kidding. There was one time even I forgot.
You forgot too.
Yeah. What is it again? Oh yeah, it's Kai. Yeah, his name is Kai.
Yeah.
So that was my little experiment. Nitani kapi is now 2 years old, and he still responds to Nitani kapi only.
Okay.
And he sings. He just out of the blue one day he came dragging in a drum, and we found it, and He sings. He can sing. He can't even talk,
Oh.
but he'll sing.
Is that right?
You
Eh?
can hear him. He's really trying to sing.
Is that right? Eh?
So I put on YouTube, and Paolo, and he stands there watching. So he finds there's like all kids. They find different interests, but for a while there was the drum, and he would actually try and sing. It was really impressive.
Nice.
So, the language obviously is something that the tribe is really working hard to preserve and keep alive. And again, I go back to my generation. We are probably the last of the real fluent speakers, because like my son's generation, a lot of them, very few of them could sit down and talk to me the way I can talk to my father.
Right. Right. Your father's still with us? He's still alive?
No, unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, about a year ago. And I spent my adult life, well, not but my older teenage, and he picked me up when I could start working, so. Oh, hey, you can work now. You come home with me.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I never came around when I was younger. Yeah.
Now you had some kind of value to him now.
Now you're worth something. So. But I learned a lot from him. He ran horses and cattle. He was what I call a man's man.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Never accepted any kind of charity from anybody.
Yeah.
I grew up I was very fortunate to grow up, my uncles all like that. Most of them couldn't read or write, but my other uncle that just passed away recently, Walt Delaney, he ran a business till the day he died.
Is that right?
Yeah, he ran a restaurant, he ran and he never could, read
Yeah.
or write. Maybe he could have, but I never seen him.
Yeah.
And he was one of the first to farm their own land too with machinery. So I was working his horses, and he had a big tractor, he had a cultivator, he had a seeder, he had a grain truck, he had a swather. The only thing we didn't do is combine, custom combine.
Okay.
But we did the seeding, we did all the work. Me and him, 2-man crew. And my other uncle Alfred, same thing. He ran a big ranch, horses, cattle. He's still running cattle and horses today. And my father ran, at one point he had close to 400 head of horses.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how many cattle, probably around the same 300. So very independent.
Yeah.
They and that's some of the things that I learned from them. We're trying to teach our younger generation that work ethic.
So now you are like a huge contributor to the Blackfoot community, right? And helping the But you also you've got a lot of involvement in the bigger community of Lethbridge, right? Yeah. Like you and I know each other from the CWSS, right? The citywide safety security thing. We know each other from there. But you're also on the board of governors at the college.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Oh, that's no more done now. Okay, and the executive director at Sikokitoki.
Yeah.
And Sikokitoki, you said there was all across Canada. There's friendship societies, right?
There's 121 friendship centers right across Canada. 21 of them are in Alberta. Lethbridge is one of the older ones.
Yeah, you said 50 years old.
50 years.
Yeah.
We celebrated 50th anniversary.
So what do they all have? They're not all Blackfoot, obviously.
No.
So what do they all have in common between all of the friendship societies? What is the common thread that all of them have?
Serving the urban indigenous population.
Okay, sure.
Regardless of who you are.
Whether it's Cree or it doesn't matter. Yeah,
and even non-indigenous, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because remember, in the old days, very few people lived in Lethbridge.
Right.
And Leroy Little Bear?
Yes.
Him?
Yeah.
So him and a few other people, they were already here in town, and they were going to university and getting along with some other people. And they're the ones who actually started the first. There wasn't a friendship center. It was just actually, I think the story goes they had an auxiliary, an old ladies auxiliary or something.
Okay.
Tea.
Yeah.
Tea time.
Yes, yeah.
They kind of based it on that. They would sponsor an evening, and they would invite the locals, and that's where it kind of started.
Okay.
And then over time, it became the Friendship Center. I think I should know the year, 1969. I think something like that is when it the first official Friendship Center. But they were already doing that work
just not officially under.
Not under the umbrella of the Friendship Centers.
Yeah.
So it's been around for a long time.
Yeah. Interesting. It's 8:55. Wow. Or not 7:55. Pardon me. I was gonna share this with you. You know who John Mort Hannum is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are you familiar with his song "Man of God"?
Not really. Well, maybe I have.
My goodness, it's a sad song.
Yeah.
But basically, he had heard an elder speak about his experience in residential schools,
Yeah.
and then he wrote this song, and it is like, it's a sad song, but basically it's kind of where, you know, these kids, yeah. So the man of God gave some kind of blessing. He said something about sin that needed confession. There was no time for kisses, no time for goodbyes. He had the Lord on his lips, but the devil in his eyes. And then he goes on about like the residential schools, and he talks about the wolves coming out, like, you know, the predators that were I'm not, maybe common's too harsh a word, but that were prevalent, that existed, right? You know. So anyways, very sad song, but a very pretty song. So I thought I'd give you that to you if you're interested in.
I thought you were gonna sing it.
Well, you know, if I knew that song, I would. I tried to sing it, but man, it's like, it kind of goes like, the man of God gave some kind of blessing. He said something about sin that needed confessing. There was no time for kisses, no time for goodbyes. He had the Lord on his lips and the devil in his eyes. Yeah, so they took away our clothes and our Indian names. They took away our feathers and threw it to the flames. They cut off my braids that my mama had tied. They had the Lord on their lips and the devil in his eyes. And then the chorus goes, when I think, I ache. When I ache, I drink. When I drink, I fly above the buttes, somewhere outside my head, and fly till I sleep, and fly till I dream, and I dream till I wake and start thinking again. So anyways, that's kind of the thing. So yeah. Anyways.
So with that, I'll leave you with this.
Let's hear it.
The residential school and a lot of other things that our people, and not only our people, but, you know, indigenous people around the world have suffered through colonialism, through the first contact, but indigenous people are very resilient. Even this, it was government policy to basically get rid of the Indian.
Agreed. That was the intent.
The cutting the hair. That's absolute sacrilege. I mean, you just don't do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I was watching CNN. We've been watching a lot of CNN this past 4 years, and I forget the name of the individual who did an interview when they were having the big protests in Sioux Valley there.
Okay, yeah.
Down in the Sioux country there. Anyways, he was interviewing these people that were camped there inside a teepee. And there was a young lady sitting there. And Kamal, you know, the black gentleman that does the interviews.
Okay.
America something.
Okay.
He was the one doing the interview. And I don't remember what they were talking about, but she said something there that really stuck, and I use it a lot, and I always quote her. She said that we are the descendants of our strongest ancestors.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it stuck to me.
Right.
Okay, what did you mean by that? You know, that's cool. That sounds good.
Yeah.
So there's a story just down here in the river bottom here.
Yep.
Where people used to camp, and when smallpox hit again, they literally infected blankets and gave them to the people.
Oh, so that was intentional.
Intentional.
Okay. Yeah.
So
well, you, like Indian people, were not regarded as people, right?
Yeah,
they
exactly.
like they were.
Well, they just wanted to get rid of the Indian part of us and then simulate us into their culture. But there's some teepee rings down there, and we were walking down there with one of our elders there, and he showed us these teepee rings. So some of the teepee rings in the circle, there was a complete circle, and then others you could see where the door was.
Right.
Okay. And somebody asked the question, well, how come this one's a full circle and that one's not? He said, this is where they camped, our ancestors were camped during the smallpox epidemic, one of the campsites. And the ones that are closed are the families that died in that teepee.
Oh, okay.
So when they came by, they knew they were dead, so not to infect anybody else, they just closed it,
Yeah.
and they sealed it, and they walked away.
Okay.
So the ones that where you could see where the door was,
Right.
those were the ones who walked out.
Got it.
So those that walked away from that camp
Yeah.
are my
Right.
descendants.
Because they
The
survived.
strongest.
Yeah.
So the DNA that runs in my veins is the DNA that they had. So that's why we are so resilient.
Yeah.
Because we are descendants of our strongest warriors, our strongest ancestors.
Yeah.
And nothing, we've adapted
Yeah.
to this new world. But yet, in Ghana, through Akukatsi, we still hold on to our ancestors.
Yeah.
We're still together.
Yeah.
So very, very strong.
Yeah.
So those are what we're trying to teach our young people.
Nice.
You have to identify yourself as a Ghanaian,
Yeah. Yeah.
not as Lethbridgetonian or Albertan or Canadian.
Right.
You are Blackfoot, you are Ghanaian.
Yeah.
Learn your history.
Yeah.
So all the unfortunate social issues and problems that we have, not only in our indigenous community, but
Right.
other communities.
But the indigenous community is certainly harder hit, right?
Absolutely,
What do we got? 4% of the population and 50% of the people
Yeah.
in jails, and
Yeah.
70% of the people have
So
substance
this
abuse problems.
song
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
exactly, that's their song.
Mm-hmm.
But you will be surprised if you ever go down and just sit with them. They brighten up and they'll start talking to you.
Mm.
Some of them, a lot of them are very good speakers,
Mm.
you know, and they'll share stories with you. It's just unfortunate, like you said in the song, something happened,
Yeah.
some trauma
Yeah.
they haven't dealt with.
Yeah.
And my goal personally is to teach our young people so we don't get to that point.
Right.
Keep them on the right track.
Right.
And I think, like my father said, the ceremony, a lot involved there. There's a lot of learning, but at the end of the day, when you come out of there, and you come out of there a better person, that was the goal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
There's always hope, I guess.
I think so too. And you know what? I think the world's in a way different place now.
Mhm.
Diversity is something that's valued now, right? Inclusion and diversity is something that's valued. And everybody knows the advantages
Yeah.
of having different perspectives, different viewpoints that you bring to any situation where you're going to get better solutions, right? And so that's the good news, right? And it's great that really in your case, you're restoring a lot of that culture, or assisting to restore a lot of that culture, right?
It's
Yeah.
not me. It's a community.
Well,
effort.
yes. But you're certainly a contributor.
Well, somebody's got to drive the wagon.
Well, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah. I just wanted to share something quick. I go visit with the boys at the treatment center. They invited me a couple. Anyways, there was a couple black gentlemen there. You know, mixed group. Some native, some not. But there was a couple black gentlemen there. And I always start my presentation in my language.
Sure.
Because people say, "Oh, I thought your language was dead or dying." No,
Right.
that's why I use it first,
Right.
so they hear it. Oh, you can speak your language. Yeah, I can speak my language. And I always introduce myself as a Kayamtsindima, which is my Blackfoot name.
Okay.
Anyways, I probably only said it 3, maybe 4 times through the whole hour or 2 hours I was there. And when it was over, everybody was saying, "Well, hey, great, thank you, good information." And we were saying our goodbyes, and that black gentleman came over and says, "Thank you, Akayam Sindiman."
Look at that,
He
eh?
said it so clear, it just kind of shocked me. Hey, hold on, come back over here. Say that again. And he said, Akayam Sindiman. And, he said it so clear. I could tell this guy was listening.
Yeah,
This guy's
nice.
going to be an elder. So that's it was just kind of I was amazed at how well he said it, and I said it like 2 hours ago.
Yeah, that's
And
impressive.
He remembered it.
I have I am not picking up black. I can't even repeat things that you've just said, but I don't know how long ago this was. I met a couple of First Nations guys outside of the coffee shop,
Yeah.
and they were. I said I'd buy them a tea. We had a little conversation. I said, "Oh, I'll go get you a tea." So I go get him a tea, and then we come out and I'm chatting with him. And the one guy, he was convinced he was going to teach me Blackfoot, right? and so he was only talking Blackfoot to me. And then I look over to the other guy, and he kind of give me a little clue. And anyways, he was determined he was going to teach me that night. And it didn't work out that well, but yeah. So, yeah.
At least we use Oki.
Okay. Yeah,
Oki's
exactly.
great.
Yeah, that part I can pull off. I could do that. So, yeah. Cool. Well, Travis, what a pleasure having you and having a nice chat with you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I think that we'll kind of call this a wrap, but another time maybe. Oh, wait a minute. Do you want to talk about the elections?
Yeah, there's an exciting time coming up back home on the Blood Reserve. We're having our annual elections, so we're going to be electing. We elect 12 council and 1 head chief. And
Was Trump running for chief on the?
No. He's not allowed anywhere near us. Stay down south. But yeah, it's election, tomorrow's nominations, and I'm wild for the first time. I'm gonna throw my hat in there.
Nice.
And it's just time. My father. I kind of like to follow in my father's footsteps. He did a lot in his life, and I'll never achieve everything he did. But there's certain things that were very important to him, like Akukatsin in the society. That was number one. And
Right.
horses. So I've done all that, and he also was an elected councilman on the reserve too. It's not the best part of his life. In fact, he said, don't do that. That's crazy. But bucket list. I kind of like to try and do everything that follow in his footsteps, and whether it's good or bad, it's another way you can help
Right.
the community if you go in there with a good heart and you really want to help people. It's a good outlet to do that. So I'm going to throw my name in the hat for the first time, and a lot of my friends, my age, we're at that time where we want to kind of help out the broader community.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of work here in Lethbridge, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Yeah.
Whether I'm elected or not, I'm still going to. In fact, it's part of my platform is kind of bridge that not the gap of leadership, like our leadership on reserve and the leadership here in town.
Right.
Mayor Spearman does a pretty good job at that, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. So maybe I can be of assistance.
Got it. Yeah, because you're sort of two worlds that you're bridging there. Yeah.
I understand the Lethbridge and the community here, and I understand ours. So I think I could help out in that.
Nice.
So yeah.
Excellent. So Travis is on the ballot.
You bet.
If you're a voter.
Yeah. Vote for Travis.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Travis.
Thank you for the coffee.
You betcha. Jesse,